Is your debt causing you sleepless nights? Knock your debt out with Debt KO. And your debt won't be the only thing keeping you up at night. Debt KO. Free, impartial advice on all your debt. This is KUGAN CASSIUS for IFL TV in association with MTK Global. Delighted as always to be joined by Mr. Edward Hearn, star, author, promoter. Is there anything you fucking can't do, mate?
No, stop. No, seriously. No.
No, is there anything you can't do? Seriously, mate.
It's limited, mate. To be honest with you, it's limited. Oh yeah, I can't do yoga.
Oh, so you're not that good at life, are you?
No, I mean I'm zero flexibility. That's one thing I'm all for. It.
Fair play. I've got a quick question.
In the bubble, son.
I'm in the bubble. I love bubble life.
It's an early one, isn't it?
Isn't it? Do you know Christmas is coming up? Yeah.
Yeah, mate.
Who decorates your tree at home?
Actually, a family friend.
What? You get someone in outside to?
Yeah, no. I'll give them a shout out. It's a lady called Faye Pierce. She decorates. She's a friend of ours. She has a company that specialises in Christmas trees and decorations at home, and yeah, we use her actually.
So who has input about what goes where?
Well, fucking not me. What do you think?
No, I don't know. I just wondered.
I come home one day and it looks like fucking Macy's in New York. I mean, it's like about eight trees in the house. A tree in every different room.
Are you joking?
No.
You've got a tree in all rooms?
Not all rooms, but my kids' room, in our room, like we go to town. Like that is. It's big in our house. It's big in our house. And especially this year, because it's been so shit and there's not been a lot to celebrate. I think this year she's going to do some damage.
All right, okay.
It'd be one of these. Oh, here's the bill for the Christmas trees. Oh, what the fucking hell? Be one of them.
So, yeah.
Anyone that has... When's your baby due?
February.
All right, okay. You'll understand. It's mega for the kids, mega.
Well, the only reason I ask, because my missus has done a fortune, probably not a Hearn fortune, but a fortune on Christmas decorations.
I think this year, the Christmas decoration market is going to be big. Because everyone is saying, I mean, I've already had the conversation. I think it was like, normally, when do you get it in? December, middle of December. I mean, I've actually been putting it off now since I think October, to get, we should get, because obviously, should we get the decorations in? So I think ours are, where are we, November 20th coming up? I don't think we're too far away.
Oh,
I think I'm going to make the drive home, and all of a sudden, like I said, the electricity bill's gone up 4 times.
Oh, it'd be nice to see a picture of that when it's done.
I'll definitely send you one.
Yeah, just recap from the weekend, a little recap from the weekend before we start first. Obviously Katie Taylor, hugely impressive. Realistically now for Katie Taylor, what is going to be her next fight?
I don't know. I think it's an honest question. I mean, she that was a WBA mandatory. She's got other mandatories as well. No disrespect to the other mandatories. I mean, Gutierrez was tough, but she wants to be in big fights. And I think when you look at it, the obvious next fight is the winner of McCaskill Breakhouse, the undisputed welterweight championship. I'd love to see her become a 2-weight undisputed champion. The Serrano fight still lingers on. The Cyborg fight is still a huge fight to make. You've got Brits, you've got Chantel Cameron. She's going to unify in her next fight, probably in January. I think that's a big fight for 2021. Natasha Jonas could be a big fight for 2021. You could see Terry Harper moving up for 2021. Not that I haven't thought about who's next, but there is quite a lot of options. and she's one of the biggest fights out there, to be honest with you. The ones that excite her. You know, Serrano fight will always excite, but it's just, you know, you don't know whether they actually want the fight. We've tried and tried. Maybe we'll revisit it and see if we can get that one made.
And Rachel Ball, who obviously in fight camp at your house, she was an opponent for someone, and then she was on the verge of fighting for a full world title. She fought for the interim title in the end, but she's had a whirlwind few months as well.
Really good and lovely girl as well. Great fighter, great story. It was a real mission last week. Sometimes people don't get to see what goes on behind the scenes, you know, in terms of making fights. So, you know, Gianni, who's the world super flyweight champion, came in, was overweight on her check weigh. The board wouldn't allow her to weigh less than 126 pounds, I think. So she had to come in at 126 pounds. I think she came in at 125 something. And Rachel Ball had to weigh 122. The fight was made at 118. We had to obviously lose the WBA bantamweight title and make the interim WBC super bantamweight title. But the key was to get her fighting and give her the opportunity. So she's done really well. Look, the two fights out there for her are Ebony Bridges and Shannon Courtenay. Ebony Bridges might not be ready in time for the start of next year. And if that's the case, if Shannon wins on December 4th, I would like to make that fight for the WBA bantamweight title, which is, you know, obviously still up for grabs.
And likely to, like the first part of the year for that?
Oh yeah, for sure. You know, I'd like to see her box probably early February.
Okay. Did you watch Brook and Crawford, Eddie?
I woke up to it. I got home from Wembley, and I think it was about 2 o'clock in the morning, and I thought to myself, I'd like to watch this fight, but I conked out. And then, you know, when you wake up and you was expecting them to still be awake, and you wonder what time it is. And I turned over, and I just got my phone, and I had some WhatsApps that I read who kind of told me the result. And then I went on to Top Rank social media and just watched the clips of the fight.
And what did you think of what you saw?
I thought I saw, you know, a pound for pound top fighter in Terrence Crawford. I thought Kell was boxing nice for a few rounds. He was obviously in great shape. He put everything into the fight. Just for a number of reasons, he just, you know, he couldn't beat someone like Terrence Crawford. And it's not that he's not a great fighter. It's just that, you know, like I said, there are many reasons why he couldn't win that fight, but he gave himself every chance to do it, got himself in tremendous shape. And yeah, it's no disgrace losing to a fighter as good as Terrence Crawford.
Which comes on to Terrence Crawford. After Bob Arum's comments from the weekend regarding Terrence Crawford, I suppose it's just a no-brainer that someone like you would be hovering around that situation. Well, you'd be an idiot not to, really.
I mean, to be honest with you, Bob Arum is just the funniest geezer you've ever met. I mean, you have to almost like him for the fact, I mean, he's so brutally honest. I mean, to stand up there on that platform on ESPN and basically say, this guy's costing me a load of money, I don't know if I want to spend it anymore. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. That's the moment you should be championing your guy. Whether you think the guy's making too much money, whether he's costing you too much, whether you're losing money on him, at that point, as far as I'm concerned, you have to talk about him as if he's God, right? Because, you know, the fact that you're saying this guy's too expensive and you're losing money basically means this guy doesn't have the commercial worth that you need, and therefore it's difficult for you to land the big fights. You know, what he said was true, but for me, it's not something that I would have done, especially with my fighter standing there on the right of me, you know? But I think Bob's at the end of his tether. There's obviously a poor relationship there now between Terrence Crawford and Top Rank. You know, Terrence Crawford's been pushing the buttons on the numbers. Bob Arum's not wanting to pay it, and he's probably reluctantly given him those last two paydays against Amir Khan and Kell Brook. But I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe the interview, you know. And I think to say that means the relationship's over, to be honest with you. Like, whether they'll carry on working together, that's all about the business. But the relationship is over.
So, I mean, from your perspective, it would be a case of if he become a free agent, then you would obviously show some interest, clearly.
Yeah, I mean, it's no secret that purses have escalated out of control. Of course, that's going to balance off. But I think, you know, through the pandemic now, promoters, particularly broadcasters, want more bang for their buck. So you're going to see the fighters that maybe aren't delivering the numbers have to have a little bit of a reality check and say, you can't keep paying that kind of money because the numbers are wrong. And, you know, I've said a number of times, you may see, I mean, I've said even with us, you may see us lose fighters and you might see other people lose fighters because there comes a point where you have to say, you just can't do it anymore, especially in this environment. And I think that's really what Bob meant. And I've seen some other comments from him today, which is like, look, if it don't make sense and we can't do it anymore, I wish you all the best, you know? So, yeah, it was interesting. I thought it was really interesting. I mean, look, I've started doing that a lot lately. Look, so I go, look, so I'm going to try and stop doing that, just let you know. There's only one fight. It's the Errol Spence fight. It's one of the best fights in boxing. So, for me, I want to see that fight. That's the kind of fight that can rejuvenate the sport. I'm not saying it's the biggest fight in the world to the casual fans. It's really not. But for boxing, it's really important, I think. And I genuinely think that Errol Spence and particularly Terrence Crawford. See, Terrence Crawford, Bob was saying, the guy's got to do more. You've got to do more. Really, as a promoter, it's your job to work with what you've got, right? And let's look at what you've got in Terrence Crawford. You got a 3-weight world champion. You got a pound for pound great fighter. You got a guy who is basically a god in Omaha. You've got a really funny, really articulate individual. You've got a guy with an incredible boxing IQ who can read fights and understand fights, probably a bit of a boxing historian as well. You've got a guy who's a really good family man, a role model, and lives the right life for boxing, you know? So when you've got all those attributes, you've really got a great fighter, you've got a great product. So you can't just turn around and say, you've got to do more. Yeah, has he got to do more media? Yeah, probably. But that's your job as a promoter to have that relationship with him to make him understand that. But you can't turn around and go, this guy's not really worth it because he's a great fighter. But I don't feel that, I don't know, for one reason or the other, he just hasn't resonated with the US public. But he should do because he's an unbelievable fighter. And, I've met him a dozen times, I don't know, where he boxed Ricky Burns on our show. You've met him before, haven't you? I think he's really funny. I think he's got a great personality.
He wasn't then. He was very quiet in that build-up to that fight.
The Brook fight or Ricky Burns?
No, the Ricky Burns fight. The Ricky Burns fight.
He was a puppy, wasn't he? Mm. And it was hilarious because I still wind him up because he came over to Glasgow with about 40 people. And basically, I think he got 5 or 6 rooms as part of his deal. And I think there was about 90 people in each room. And the room service bills were out of control. And I still wind him up about it to this day. So I think, listen, I love Terrence Crawford. I think he's great. When you talk about would you be interested in signing him, we may have the same problem as Top Rank. Ultimately, when you're doing fights like Kell Brook and Amir Khan, all you're ever going to do if you're Top Rank is lose money. So unless you can deliver him Pacquiao in the Middle East or the Spence fight on pay-per-view, and could I deliver those fights? I don't know. So, and if I couldn't deliver those fights, do I want to take the position of Top Rank of losing money? In fights that because it's a bit like when someone's so good and it's so difficult to get in the big fights, you do start losing money and hemorrhaging money. I mean, Demetrius Andrade is a good example, right? You know, of course, we're losing money on Demetrius Andrade because he's that good. It's very difficult to get in the fights. So I have to try and find him a way in 2021 to get him Golovkin, to get him Munguia, to get him Charlo. One, because he needs to do it to define his legacy. But two, it's the only way we can get him out there and make him a pound-for-pound great by proving himself in those big fights. And that's the same with Terrence Crawford. He has to get in those big fights. And the danger is, and this goes for Demetrius as well, that those big fights pass you by. This is their prime. We must deliver now. And Top Rank must deliver for Terrence Crawford. And if not, someone else must do. But maybe we couldn't do it. I mean, you know, Top Rank are a very good company, you know? So they can't deliver for him. So could I? I don't know. Maybe not.
Would you say that Crawford is pound for pound number one at the moment, or not?
No, it's Canelo Alvarez. Because Terrence just doesn't have the resume. He may have the ability to be a pound for pound number one, but he doesn't have the resume. But he's certainly pound for pound top five. Listen, he may be pound for pound number one. I think he beats Errol Spence. I mean, look, we don't know how Errol Spence is going to come back. Been out a long time after the crash. But the difference is, with Terrence Crawford, he lives the life, mate. Very nice man.
We'll see how that pans out. Dave Allen.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, just talk to me kind of the lead up between the whole bit of a fiasco with the whole Lovejoy situation a couple of weeks ago to now, or the other day.
This has been going on for a couple of months now, really. And, you know, obviously he posted the video of him sparring Usyk. He called me after that spar and basically said, you know, I'm not sure about my future. You know, I got buzzed today in sparring, and you know, I think it scared him probably a little bit because he was obviously hurt in that situation, and I think he thought that he was actually knocked out. But when he saw the video back, it didn't look as bad as he thought it was. But I think the whole episode sort of just shocked him a little bit. So, you know, I told him, he called me straight after, and I told him, just look, calm down. And then I spoke to Usyk's guys, and I said, please, can you go and check on Dave Allen? And if he needs to be flown home, let's just work it out. And after a while, he was fine. He was fine. He came down, and he came back, sparred back home. And obviously, we got in the Lovejoy fight. But when we were looking to match him, I mean, obviously, he was going to fight Christian Hammer at first, which was quite a tough fight. I could tell that his confidence was going a bit, you know, like he wanted to fight Lovejoy because he believed that Lovejoy was bang average, right, which is yet to be discovered. And then when that fell through, he didn't really want to fight any other replacement that night of any note. And then when we were matching him for this week, and he won't mind me telling you any of this, you know, because it's the truth. He just, you know, we were putting forward guys who he would be dealing with comfortably, but I just felt that he didn't have the confidence anymore. And when I spoke to him more deeply about it, he just turned around to me and said, look, I don't really want to get punched in the head anymore. And I think he was concerned that he might not be as tough and durable as he once was. And when he said that to me, you know, I don't want to get punched anymore, I just thought, you've got to stop, you know. And we just had a moment on the phone where I think he realised through what we were talking about that he needed to think about his position. Dave's a very intellectual guy, you know. He's not stupid. So he texted me, he said, listen, I'm going to speak to my sister. I think I need to have a think about what I'm going to do, and you know. And then he messaged me the next morning. I said, look, sleep on it, see how you feel. And he messaged me the next morning. He said, Saturday morning, and said, I've talked to her about it. I'm going to pack it in. I just don't want to do it anymore. I don't want to fight anymore. I don't want to get punched anymore. You know, once you lose that, the thing that made Dave Allen the fighter that he was, and I know he never, you know, went on to challenge for world heavyweight titles, was he's tremendously tough. tremendously durable. And I think he's lost that because he doesn't want to do it anymore. And when you don't want to do anything, you should always stop. But you should always stop if that involves boxing, because this is the toughest sport in the world. And in heavyweight boxing, if you don't want to get in there, if you don't want to take the shot, if you're not willing to bite down the gum shield and grind it out, you just can't do it. And I think the way he was with the mentality was, I think he would have got hurt. And certainly against the top, I think the David Price fight really took, the soul away from him. I think, obviously, he sort of got stretchered out of the ring that night. And I think it scared him. I do. And Dave, again, I know Dave gives the impression that he's this, crazy, jokey guy, but Dave's a deep thinker, and he's also very bright. And he was able to talk to himself and have an honest conversation. And that's when you can stop at the right time, when you can do that and have that honest conversation. You can bluff yourself. Oh, yeah, just get a few more paydays. I mean, listen, he could have boxed this Saturday. I could have found him someone to beat. Then we could have stepped up and he could have boxed someone a lot more dangerous for good money. But he may have got hurt. And we all have to take responsibility to, speak to these fighters and help them make the right decisions, because some fighters don't think as deeply as Dave. Some fighters aren't as intelligent as Dave and can have that conversation with themselves. And some go on for too long, and it can be extremely damaging in later life. So, I think that he's left, whilst he's probably left some opportunities and some money on the table, he walks away with his health and his happiness. He texted me the day after when he'd made his decision. He said, I'm happier today than I've been for ages. Because he worries about fights and he thinks about fights, and he's always, whenever there's a fight date, he texts me 20 times a day. What about this guy? Oh, I don't know about it. He drives himself crazy. So I kind of feel like he's been cut free, and now he has to find and follow another passion in life, which will be around boxing. I mean, he's already asked me for 62 jobs. He wants to be a matchmaker. I think he wants to be the commentator. I think he wants, So, and I'm sure we'll work with Dave, and I'm sure broadcasters will work with Dave, because he's a very popular, bright individual, but he doesn't have to worry about fighting anymore. That's been taken away. And once you lose the passion in this sport and you lose the hunger, and once you admit to yourself, you just do not want to get punched anymore for a living, you have to stop. And he stopped at the right time.
Hypothetically, Edward, after say a year, if he phoned you back up, how would you approach that situation?
Well, the only way he would do that is if he needed the money. I mean, look, he's made a lot of money in his career. I believe he's bought some properties and stuff like that. And, this was at a time where, listen, people don't realise Dave Allen popped up on the scene to me. I mean, I knew about him, and I think I put him on a show once. Someone asked me to put him on in Sheffield. And I think he approached me, or someone did, I think his manager at the time, to fight Dillian Whyte. He was going to fight for the British title, but ended up being an eliminator, I think. So we made him an offer. He was just an opponent, didn't really know anything about him. He took that offer. He boxed Dillian Whyte. Money was all right, nothing special, but Dillian Whyte was not, I think Dillian Whyte made the same money as Dave Allen that night. Then Luis Ortiz come over, but Dave Allen went the distance with Dillian Whyte. Never really looked like he was going to beat him, but did all right in the fight. So then Luis Ortiz came over, and we were going to put him in an 8-rounder. And I thought, well, Dillian Whyte, Dave Allen's just gone 10 rounds with Dillian Whyte, spoke to the manager, made him an offer. The money was pretty shit, to be honest with you, but it was way down the card. But it was shit money to fight Luis Ortiz. But the budget was what the budget was. He accepted it, and he boxed that night. And I went back into the changing room after that fight, and he cut his tongue down the side. And I remember walking in the change room, and he went to me, "Can you get me some easier fights now?" He could hardly talk with his tongue. And that was really the first time I got to see him and talk to him properly. And I thought, do you know what? This kid needs a bit of a break. He's fought Dillian Whyte. He's fought Luis Ortiz. Let's bring him back. So we brought him back. I mean, we always got criticised. particularly by fighters and people in the boxing world, that we always gave Dave Allen too many opportunities. But I liked him. You know, I liked him. People liked him. You can't help but have a soft spot for him. And I wanted to try and help him. You know, and as such, I mean, actually, it's just quite interesting. I'm just going to pull up his box rec, because I want to remember. So he boxed. This is quite interesting, yeah. So he boxed Luis Ortiz, right? Nearly went the distance, got stopped in the 7th round. And then he went to me, can you do me a favour? Can you bring me back? Like, can I have an easy fight? So I brought him back. I think it was in Hull. And he boxed Lucas Razulik, right? It was absolutely dreadful. Sorry, Lucas. And he knocked him out in the 1st round, right? And he loved it. He couldn't believe it. You know, he's like, oh. And then he said, can I have another one of them? So then I put him in with David Howe. That was actually on a pay-per-view show, I think. And he knocked him out in the 2nd round. And he actually looked quite good in that fight. And I thought, actually, like, Dave can fight. So then I thought to myself, what I'll do is I'm going to give Dave Allen the opportunity of a lifetime. I'm going to put him in with Leroy Thomas on the Kell Brook Errol Spence card at Bramall Lane, right? A kid from Sheffield. And I thought it would be a good fit for the show, but I thought it made me feel good to give Dave that opportunity. And I'll never forget, he walked out that night to Field of Golds at Bramall Lane, and he was nearly in tears. And he boxed shit against Leroy Thomas. Shit. In fact, that's probably one of the big regrets from Dave. He should have won that night, and he could have won, but he boxed shit against Leroy Thomas. He came back to the change rooms. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought to myself, can't believe you've wasted that opportunity. So after that, he went out, and I think he wanted to get another fight. I said, listen, I'll put you in another fight, but it's a big fight. And, you know, after that performance, so he went and boxed Tom Dallas at the Brentwood Centre. Remember, I think he accidentally knocked him out. I think he wanted to do some rounds and ended up chinning Tom Dallas. And then I thought, I'll give him the rematch against Leroy Thomas on a Kell Brook show at Sheffield Arena. I paid Leroy Thomas. I had to pay him a load of money to come over, but I wanted Dave Allen. I fell back in love, and I wanted him to win the Commonwealth heavyweight title. He trained his nuts off for that fight. He really did. And they clashed heads in the 2nd round. And it was a no contest. No, in the 1st round, they clashed heads. 1st round. And I was gutted because it cost me a fortune. Then he went away, and then after that, he went. I think he went off the boil a little bit, and he went and got himself a fight against David Howe again, and then he sort of realised, I just want money, to be honest with you, and I think he went through a little bit of a down patch, and you know, didn't train a lot. Then he got offered the Tony Yoka fight. And he went over there, and I think that was also a fight that didn't scare him, but he said, you know, Yoka could really punch. And he got stopped in that fight, again, in the 10th round. And then he come back, and I sort of fell in love with him again, felt a bit sorry for him. I gave him the Nick Webb fight at the O2, which is probably my favourite night, really. And he beat him. And then I thought to myself, do you know what? Let's go on a little bit of a run here with Dave Allen. So, but then with Dave, it was either I want a load of money for a risky fight, or I want someone who's bang average for average money. And he loved those fights because he just loved winning and he loved boxing. So then I put him in with Samir Nebo, right? Remember, in Newcastle, knocked him out in a round. That was an easy job. Then I put him in with Bracamonte. Do you remember, right? Well, Dave Allen, I think he trained once. And I just said, well, you got to fight if you want in a couple of weeks. Put you in with this guy who was 8-1, I think, at the time, but average. Well, it turns out, he only told me after, I don't think he trained one day. He ended up having an absolute war with Bracamonte. It should have just been a 1-round, 2-round job. But it was a war. And then I probably did something that, you know, maybe I wouldn't have done for anyone else in that position. But I let him headline the O2 against Lucas Brown, you know. And he ended up knocking him out in the 3rd round. which was just another great night. And that was like, he won't mind me saying it, I never looked at Dave Allen and went, after that night, I thought, God, you could really go on from here. And, you know, I just thought, what a great moment for you. You know, who would have thought it? Because I actually get a buzz off things like that. It's a bit like women's boxing, where people said to me, no, you can't do that. Well, you get it and you think, you said it couldn't be done. And that was the same thing with Dave Allen. I just thought it was almost funny that he was headlining the O2. But people enjoyed it and people loved him. Then he boxed David Price, paid him a lot of money for that fight. And that was his chance, really, to win there. But again, he put everything into that fight with Darren Barker. You know, he trained well, same with the Lucas Brown fight. But he got beaten by the better fighter. And then he went and knocked out Dorian Darch in 3 rounds on the Sheffield Arena Brook. And that was all she wrote. He finished with a win. 18-5-2. And I think actually, to be honest with you, I mean, I remember watching him. Let's bring this one up here. Oh, Jason Gavin. I gave him the Jason Gavin fight, actually.
Ed? Hello?
Yeah, you back now, yeah?
Yeah, go on.
I remember watching him against Fabrice Aueron, right, at Sheffield Arena. And I think he was with Dennis Hobson at the time, and I was asked to put him on. And I thought, it's good, you know, young heavyweight from Sheffield. He was useless that night, Dave Allen. Useless. And I remember watching him going, fucking hell, what's he doing? And I never would have thought that 5 years later, we would have done what we've done. And listen, good luck to him. And that is the Dave Allen story.
Trip down memory.
I know you're a big fan.
Yeah.
I think you should give him a job with IFL, to be fair, as well.
Well, I've tried.
Have you? Okay.
But just finishing off on that, just by the sounds of it, it's probably best for the reasons why Dave Allen's talking about retiring, that he probably stays retired. So, you know,
yeah. As I said before I went into that 10-minute
yeah, they asked if you wanted to would you work with him?
And the answer is, if he fights again, it'll just purely be for the money, and therefore he shouldn't do it, because you can't be a part of this sport just to take the money against the heavyweights. It's too dangerous.
Okay. So I've just read some comments before I got onto the Zoom call from Deontay Wilder again, saying that if he doesn't fight Tyson Fury, he wants to fight Dillian Whyte.
Well, that's convenient of him. I mean, Dillian Whyte's only wanted boxing for 10 years. You know what I mean? So I think Dillian Whyte has got the fight of his life against Alexander Povetkin first. Do you know what's weird? I saw that list as well. He didn't mention AJ, did he?
No, so it was Ruiz, Parker, Helenius, Usyk, and Dillian, I think. Yeah.
I mean, you've got the world heavyweight champion, the unified world heavyweight champion, Anthony Joshua, and he still don't want to fight him. Anyway, we'll move on from that. Dillian Whyte against Deontay Wilder is a really big fight, but Dillian's got, you know, bigger fish to fry at the moment. He's got to try and beat Alexander Povetkin, and then he wants to fight for the world title. Deontay Wilder's going to get the shock of his life when he sees the offer to fight Robert Helenius. I mean, he turned down. I won't embarrass him with the offer that DAZN made, but if he would have lost the Tyson Fury fight or the AJ fight, he probably would have been making 15 times what he's going to get for fighting Robert Helenius. Hold my beer.
That's the strange name on the list, isn't it? Robert Helenius. No disrespect to Helenius.
Always look out for the strange name on the list. Always look out for the strange name on the list. And then go, that's the one he's fighting.
Okay.
A little bit of tips for you.
All right.
Listen, I do it sometimes. Hands up.
What, you list a load of, like...
good ones.
And then you chuck in a whatever. Just see the game.
I've done it before. I won't lie. But,
I mean, theoretically, Eddie, would would it be difficult to even make that fight with Wilder's lot or not, or what?
Listen, who knows? I mean, blimey. They wouldn't even pick up the phone to me to make an Anthony Joshua fight. I was in New York asking for meetings, and they wouldn't even have a meeting with me to make the Anthony Joshua Deontay Wilder fight. So I guess their position's changed now. That was a position of arrogance, and now they're in a position of need. You know, they need an opponent. They need money. They need an offer. They need something. But I don't know what's happening with the Fury stuff. You know, I mean, I saw comments yesterday from Frank Warren basically saying we couldn't find the money to get Tyson Fury out this year. You know, I mean, that's a horrendous look, because you're a star fighter. You have to find a way to get him out. You know, but now I think the courts are at meeting, are they, or a couple of weeks to decide whether he has to honour the rematch or not. Is that right, by the sounds of things?
By the sounds of it, yeah, from Aram's comments.
Well, Bob Aram saying, well, we're very confident of our position. But I hope they are, because we're not waiting for Fury to fight in March. If AJ beats Pulev, that fight is our May fight or June fight at the latest. So we want to just, I mean, Aram says he thinks Pulev's going to knock AJ out and it won't be a problem. But he said if AJ beats Pulev, we'll go straight into that fight. Well, I hope so, because we can't wait around. So just hold your horses till December 12th. That's the key date in the heavyweight calendar. Because if AJ can beat Pulev, we want to make that fight immediately for the late spring, early summer of 2021.
But if Fury's not going to fight then in like February, March, pending a Joshua fight waiting there for that sort of time you're talking then, is he? Or does that just...
I don't understand. Repeat the question.
So if Fury,
yeah.
I think Aram said that Fury possibly could be fighting in like February.
Yeah. No, we don't want him to do that. He can't, you know, we don't want to wait around for him to have another interim fight. The path was very clear. He was fighting on December 5th. He told everyone he was fighting, no matter what, blah, blah, blah. And we're fighting on December 12th. And then we're fighting each other. So it's not, okay, well, we'll fight on December 12th as we planned, as we promised. And then you fight in March and then we see what happens. We've got the Usyk situation to sort out. As soon as we finish our fight, Usyk will be saying, I'm mandatory now. Come on, WBO, let's go. So straight after our fight, we need to know, do you want that fight next or not? And the answer has to be yes.
If they do decide to fight Fury in February, what will AJ do then? Will he fight Usyk? Yeah.
But you know, that's fine. But we want the Fury fight. I can't make it any clearer. It's the only fight that AJ wants if he beats Pulev is Tyson Fury. So, and Bob's right. Bob, you know, he said, look, we'll just hold fire. Wait, what are we, 3 weeks away from that fight? Let that fight happen. If AJ gets the win, bang, let's just get it on.
So really, everything until the 12th of December is just...
12th of December is the night. It's Judgment Night.
You've added 2 heavyweight fights to that card. Hughie Fury against Marius Whyte and also Kuzmin against Bakole. Talk to me.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's already a cracking card. We've got about another 3 or 4 fights to add to the card as well. I'll be honest with you, mate, we ain't fucking about. You know, other people are struggling to even put one fight on. Already on that card, the first 4 fights, AJ against Pulev, Bakole against Glowacki for the World Cruiserweight title, Bakole against Kuzmin, great heavyweight fight, Hughie Fury against Marius Whyte, good heavyweight fight, tough fight for Hughie Fury, and 3 or 4 more to come. We're absolutely going for it, mate. We're going for it. Week on week, Taylor last week, Conor Benn this week, Billy Joe Saunders coming up, you know, Danny Jacobs against Rosado, JJ against Pulev with a big, big card. We're going for it, mate.
Are you putting any more heavyweights on that Joshua card?
Maybe one.
Okay. Your card for the 4th of December. Who else is on that? Because you've not really announced anything on that.
So we'll be announcing that shortly. We're trying to land a big fight for James Tennyson, which is a world title eliminator for the WBA lightweight title. Shannon Courtney will return to that card. Zach Parker will fight on that card. Johnny Fisher may debut on that card. We're just waiting for his team to tie up everything with a board. Who else? Chris Congo might box on that card, and Zelfa Barrett might box on that card as well. We're just trying to tie up the schedule and find the right opponents, which is difficult at the moment.
Florian Marco been very vocal to you, as he is always.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, we don't have a relationship. Obviously, Sam Jones has been talking about Florian Marco to me for a long, long time. And I watched him the other night on, was it called Ultimate Boxer?
It's just called Boxer now. I think they've dropped the Ultimate bit. It's just called Boxer.
Boxer?
With 2 X's.
Okay, so I watched him on Boxer the other night, and I thought he was really exciting. Got a massive fan base. I mean, literally, I opened up my DMs the other day, and that was just Albanian flags everywhere. So I love it. And he's really exciting to watch. So I'm going to do something with Florian Marco. Now, he's calling for the Conor Benn fight. And to be honest with you, Conor Benn makes a monumental step up on Saturday night against Formella. Can't wait for this fight. And Florian Marco's got to start fighting some proper opponents. Because, he can fight, but Conor Benn stepping up, you've got to step up as well. And if you pass those tests, mate, I would love to make Conor Benn against Florian Marco. Imagine that, the O2. Be wild, right? But Conor is looking at Formella, Josh Kelly, these kind of fighters. And at the moment, Florian, whilst he has the ability, I believe, to be at that level, he's got to pass a few tests, in my opinion. So, and he will, and we'll help him pass them. And then we can make a fight that, the whole of Albania will stop for. But only when that fight is a fight. See, with Conor Benn, I sent him a dozen opponents, right? All with half of the ability or ranked miles behind Formella. He's so desperate to test himself. And that's why he chose Formella. And it's a 50-50 fight. I think Florian and Sam Jones, please don't lose. And he could lose, but he wants to test himself. So that's why he wanted to take the most difficult fight possible. And he's done that.
Do you think you might put Florian on any of your remaining shows?
Yeah, I mean, we've got 2 or 3 signings that we're about to make. And again, all of those would like to get out this year. It's really difficult. But the good news is we're going to be going early Jan, Feb, non-stop. So, if you miss out in December, you're going to be fighting 3 weeks later. So it's not the end of the world. But obviously, naturally, everyone wants to get out before Christmas, even though Christmas don't really exist.
Scott Fitzgerald, Eddie. I know you got to go. Scott Fitzgerald back in the gym, which is obviously positive news.
Fantastic news. He's nearly ready now to fight. It's unlikely he'll make December, but he'll box in January, and then I want to get him straight out against Fowler. That's the fight. Unfortunately, he was waiting on a few things and had to vacate the British title. So it's JJ Metcalf against Ted Cheeseman, which is another good fight. So Fitz will box a 10-rounder, and then he'll box Anthony Fowler. So that's the main thing.
It's good to see him back. Update on Luke Campbell and Garcia?
Just waiting on a date. Campbell's back in the gym. Obviously had his isolation period. Had a few days where he wasn't well, and it sort of took him out of action for 2 weeks, but back in the gym and awaiting a date.
What's happening with Liam Smith, Ed?
Nothing. Was looking to try and get him out in December. There's no real fights for him there at 54. Looking to box him early next year. For me, I love the Jesse Vargas fight. And listen, we'll see what happens with Kell Brook.
That's still a fight there, isn't it?
Right. Big fight.
And just finally, anything on the Callum Smith-Canelo situation?
Still talking. Was on the phone again last night. There's still a possibility you could see that fight in December. Listen, as I said, it would be an honour to get that fight over the line. Ultimately, the decision is with Canelo and Callum Smith. There has been offers made to Callum Smith to make that fight. We're trying to close the gap and make things happen. Got to be right for everybody. It would be a wonderful fight, wonderful way to end the year. And we'll keep pushing and hopefully get it over the line.
When you coming here?
Thursday morning. Looking forward to it, man. I can't wait for this week. Fabio against Larty is a great fight. But fight of the night for me, I mean, Ben Formella is going to be wild, but it's the Savage against Tom Little. Tom Little
got himself as well.
I actually think this is a 50-50 fight. He really fancies it, doesn't he? But he has told me in every fight he's had that he's going to win. But, you know, Babic is obviously a lot more inexperienced than some of the opposition he's fought. Hrgovic, Dubois, all those guys. But I've never seen Tom in this kind of shape before.
It's going to be a fun week.
By the way, just so you know, we're going to announce shortly. So, as you know, quite often during these weeks, you lose a fight. You know, sometimes it's a championship fight. Sometimes it's just a 4 or 6 rounder. So, we lost the Hopi Price fight. He had to pull out the fight on yesterday. Nothing COVID related, just wasn't ready to fight. So I get this situation where one thing I've really been enjoying about the lockdown and fight camp is just giving people opportunities, right? So we phone round all the matchmakers and we basically say, who wants a tear up, right? Who wants an opportunity to go on TV and make a name for yourself and have a tear up? So we have made Zach Ridings against Jez Smith, right? It is an absolute stormer, right? Ridings undefeated. Jez Smith, you know, he's obviously had his losses, but he's always up for a tear up, always in great fights. Ridings is a great character. He's with Kieran Farrow up there, you know, good fighter. Yeah. So I love these kind of opportunities that are just springing up on. So I'm saying to fighters, be ready, stay ready. And I'm not just talking about my fighters. I'm talking about anyone out there. Be ready, because you've seen it. You know, we've got an English bantamweight fight on the card that's popped up. We've got Ridings against Jez Smith, you know, and then of course you've got the big heavyweight fights and then Ben Formella. But stay ready. Massive opportunities ahead.
So you've got 5 fights on this week?
Yes. Okay. No Facebook fight this week. So we go straight off at 7. We go with the English bantamweight title fight. We go with Ridings against Jez Smith. We go with Babic against Little. We go with Fabio Wardley against Larty, and then Ben against Formella. Okay. And just a quick thank you to everyone that tuned in for the Katie Taylor show. We've got a release going out. Over 2 million people watched that. So
across all the platforms.
Yeah, and massive ratings on the night as well. So it's a big, big success. And
have you got a book out? Have I got that right? Or
yeah, again, like, you know, I'm not going to talk about it anymore because I'll be honest with you. Yeah, a lot of people are saying the success has gone to my head. I mean, when I wrote the book, it wasn't about becoming a Sunday Times #1 bestseller. You know, it wasn't about selling tens of thousands of copies and being constantly in the top rated in all of its sections on Amazon. It wasn't about that for me. It was about freedom of speech. It was about expressing myself. It was about becoming I can't even say it.
Oh my God.
You know, no, seriously though.
So
it's just got out of control now. You know, it's like I just wanted to spread my wings and fly. You know, I didn't think that it would come with such heavy responsibility. You know, as an author, you know, I mean, I am a boxing promoter, and now I'm an established author, and the drama and the responsibility and the stress that comes with being a top-selling author is not what I anticipated. So I'm going to stop pushing the book now, right? Yes, it's #1 in all its categories. Yes, it's tremendous value for money. Yes, it may be the greatest book you've ever read, but I'm just not going to push it anymore.
Wow. Eddie Hearn.
I don't, you know, I don't want to be #1 for Christmas, right? Give someone else a chance. Give someone else a great. There's a lot of people that do this for a living. There's a lot of people that are out there writing books, checking the charts every day. How did we get on? How many did we sell? I'm not checking, but every time someone looks at it, I'm #1, right? And that comes with responsibility. You know, I wasn't put here for this.
Eddie Hearn, thank you very much for talking to IFL TV. We will see you on Thursday. Tune in, Sky Sports and DAZN this weekend.
Look forward to it. See you then.
Thank you. Is your debt causing you sleepless nights? Knock your debt out with Debt KO. And your debt won't be the only thing keeping you up at night. Debt KO, free, impartial advice on all your debt.